morning, jurors.
Good morning.
So I have started far too many mornings by saying to you folks, I apologize for the inconvenience, having you wait around so long. I appreciate your patience. I didn't want to do that today, but I had to do that today. Everybody has worked so hard on this trial, the jurors, the lawyers, the witnesses, that everything has to be right before you hear it. So I needed to do that this morning. So I apologize. I do have to ask you those 3 questions. Were you all able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we were here yesterday? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here yesterday? So as you know, it's time for closing arguments. And when I was a trial lawyer, I never liked it when just before closing arguments, just before I stood up, the judge would say, jurors, remember, closing arguments are not evidence. But it's true. Closing arguments are not evidence. The lawyers aren't witnesses. And because they're not evidence, I need you to put away your notebooks because you can't take notes on them. But the reason it used to bother me is because I sensed that it made it sound like they're less important than anything else in the trial, and they're not. They're certainly a very important part of the case. And we've all noticed that you've paid very close attention to this case, and we know that you'll do the same to the closing arguments. A couple of things I want to say, and you'll hear more about this in greater detail when I give you the charge. First is, you folks are the fact finders. So it's what you find from the testimony, your memory of the testimony. This has been a long trial, but your memory of the testimony, not the lawyers and not mine. So if the lawyers or I say anything that doesn't square with your memory, it's your memory that serves. Secondly, there are very important constitutional rights that I hope that you understand, or constitutional concepts that you need to understand. First, again, the burden of proof in this case is proof beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And the Commonwealth bears the burden of proof. All right? The burden of proof is on the Commonwealth to prove beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And because of that, in Massachusetts, because the Commonwealth has the burden of proof, the Commonwealth goes last in closing arguments. I've given each lawyer an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm not going to stop them. So we'll start with the defendant's closing arguments. Mr. Jackson.